Like the kind of bending over backwards and taking it up your butt things you have to do to buy these cars is stupid.
In what Ford did with the GT, remember when they made
Sign a contract
actually make sure you're not selling this car or you're getting sued.
for 3 years.
For 3 years, you have to keep this car. You know what? That's what they should do for all of these cars that are exclusive allocation.
Well, a lot of them do. Where
Oh, yeah.
They'll make them sign. They'll be like, okay, unless you want to sell, you got to sell it back to us. Otherwise, we're going to blacklist you.
Evo, you have a strong opinion about today's topic, so why don't you go ahead and
Yes.
introduce
So
it?
here's what we're going to be talking about. We're not talking about any specific car. Well, we're probably going to talk about some specific cars, but I have recently watched a video on YouTube, and the person that I watched, I'll give him a shout. It's Mark McCann, British guy. He did a whole video talking about trying to buy a GT3 RS and exposing these dealerships.
Yeah.
Because the kind of things that you have to do to buy GT3 RSs, SF90 Stradales, W1 McLarens, certain Lambos, it's insane.
Oh, yeah.
Like the kind of bending over backwards and taking it up your butt things you have to do to buy these cars is stupid.
Yeah, I think probably going to focus most on Ferrari and Porsche.
Yeah.
But all right, let's get into it. I'm Aiden.
I'm Evo.
You're watching Accelerate.
All right. So to give a little bit of a premise behind the video, he wanted to buy a new 992 GT3 RS. He's like, I have the money. The guy's got a nice collection of cars. You could go online and check him out. He used to be a race car driver.
Yeah.
So he's got an SVJ, got a Storado. He's got a really good relationship with Lambo. He's been buying Lambo since like 2007. So he even says in the video, he goes, I have a great relationship with Lamborghini. He goes, I can walk in there and buy whatever I want. They will sell it to me. Like if you want to go buy a Urus right now, they're 2 years out. Like they won't sell you a Urus because they're just.
But he'll find an allocation if it's him.
Well, they sold him a Urus Performante, and you can't touch those.
Yeah.
Because it's him, and he has a relationship with the dealership. Now he goes into Porsche, goes into the dealership, shows up with his SVJ, just to add salt to injury or whatever. Shows up with the SVJ, goes up to the salesman. The salesman, he's like, "Hey, I'm here to buy a GT3 RS," and the salesman goes, "Well, you can't just buy a GT3 RS." He goes, "You have to be on our list." It's like, well, what is that list? You may ask yourself.
Yeah.
And I won't keep talking about the video. You guys can go check the whole video out. He actually released a whole, because it was a culmination of 3 videos, but they released one where it's just a whole culmination. Yeah. Go watch that. But basically the list, and this goes with Ferrari and everybody, you basically have to buy their shit that nobody wants for you to get, or for you to be given the privilege to be on a list that maybe you'll get one of these cars. Because again, you're not guaranteed these cars. For example, they told him he has to buy 3 Taycans, Turbo S Taycans, $185,000. He has to buy 3 of them because they're sitting on the lot, can't sell them. For him to be given an allocation for a GT3 RS that maybe he'll get. Maybe. Because the dealership was like, we only get 2 per year. So maybe. And he also made up a really good point. He goes, I feel really bad about doing this because there's people that have been buying cars from this dealership forever. Like they talked to one guy who they kept him a secret because he doesn't want to ruin a relationship with the dealership. But the guy was like, yeah, I've bought like a bunch of 911s. My wife drives a new Taycan every 6 months. We have Macans and all this stuff. He goes, I went out. Apparently Porsche does a special trip where you can pay and you could go out and drive with Porsche people.
Out in Atlanta.
He goes, not the Experience Center. Like they'll go on rallies.
Oh, okay.
He goes, I did that. He goes, I bought a bunch of their clothes. He goes, I bought a $9,000 watch. That's cheap and horrible. Yeah. And he goes, I was on the list, and he goes, my dealer told me that I will not be getting a GT3 RS because there's people that are above me.
That is wrong on every level.
He goes, my dream car is a GT3 RS, and he goes, I can't buy it because my dealership quite literally told me, basically, we don't like you enough, or whatever basically that means. But what I'm trying to say is, if you want a LaFerrari, or you want the new Ferrari F80, or whatever, you got to buy 6 Roma Spiders. You got to buy a Portofino. You got to buy a Romas. You have to buy a Puro Sangue.
Yeah.
And then maybe they'll think
maybe you could get an F80. Maybe. But we're only making 1,000 of them, or 2,000, or however many Ferrari is planning on doing. But they basically spit in your face if you've not spent $2 million on the brand.
Which I wouldn't be so mad about if I understand the system. Okay, here's what I'll say. I understand the system, but I also hate the system. It's like a love-hate thing. The reason why I say I understand it is because it makes sense. If I'm a loyal customer to your dealership and I only buy from you and I come in and I buy your cars and, my wife drives a Cayenne and I drive a 911 and we buy new cars every year, we buy your Taycan or whatever, then if you reward me with a GT3 RS allocation, awesome. I like that.
Yeah.
My problem is that you're telling me even if I do all of A, B, C, D, E, F, G, you're still not going to give me the car because there's somebody above you. Who decides? Like, how do you decide that?
You ask me to spend $2 million on your brand or $1 million on your brand, and I do it because I really want this special car that you're selling. I really want this GT3 RS. I really want this F80. I really want this SF90 back when they actually sold like hotcakes. I want Lamborghini is less of a problem in this place, but if you wanted like an SV or an SVJ back when the Aventador first had his trim levels released, I can spend $1 million, $2 million, $3 million on your brand. I still can't get an assurance that I'm going to get this car before its lifetime of being around has ended, which is wrong. Okay, there is no way. I mean, I get the exclusivity factor. The GT3 RS is an extremely exclusive car. I don't want to know what it's going to be like when the GT2 RS comes out, but when the GT3 RS is like exclusive car, I get it. But how can you expect people to beg you basically for this car? And the way they beg you is by spending millions of dollars with you. And then you turn around and you're like, I can't give you a GT3 RS because we aren't allocating.
They tell you this.
Basically,
they tell you this.
That's all they do. And it's like, can't you just build another one? You asked me to spend this money. I've spent this money. I want the car. And they're like, no, we can't because we don't have the allocation for you. And you're not next in line. And then we have a list of people. And it's like, I get it, but I don't get it at the same time. And it's a really douchey thing for these car brands to do. Now, Porsche, luckily, that's about all they do in which of your GT3 RS, it's your GT3 RS. Ferrari takes it another level. And they're like, okay, you can have your SF90. You can have your F80, but if you so much as wrap that car, you get a cease and desist in the mail. If you on your $900 to $1.5 million car, if you so much as change the color of the brake calipers, you're going to get sued.
Oh, let me give you another little thing about Ferrari that's going to just tickle your fancy. Guy has an SF90, buys it new from the dealership, has a great relationship with his dealership in the UK. Drives the car, sells it, gets bored, sells it. He still has like a pure Songway and all that, but he sells the SF90. He's like, I'm done with it. Loses his butthole on it because those were like $700,000 cars, or he paid that, and then now they're worth like $400. They're not worth that much anymore. Loses his butt on it, not terrible. They announced a new SF90 Stradale or SF90 XX or whatever. I forget the exact name of it, but he's like, I want it. It's a track car, looks sick. Calls his dealer and he's like, I want to order this car. He has a relationship with them. They go, well, do you have an SF90? And he's like, I did. He goes, I sold it. And they go, no, you need to have one now. Like, you have to have one for us to be able to give you this. He's like, what do you mean? I had the car. Mine was a high-spec SF90. And they're like, no, it doesn't matter. You need to buy one. So he's like, okay, so I need to go buy another one, lose money again for you to offer me an allocation spot on an SF90 XX? On, dude.
Yeah, see, Ferrari is one of those brands, like, I don't know if it was Rocket Bunny or Liberty Walk when they modified the F40 and they got, it was a Liberty Walk, literally dropped it from the Ferrari registry.
It's an F40. They wrote out of the registry, like their car's VIN number is not in the registry.
Yeah, it's not in the registry anymore. So I don't know how that works, but but they kind of tore that F40 apart. To some extent, I understand Ferrari's position there. Especially with a car like the F40. My issue comes when you guys just constantly do this to like your not normal cars. But I shouldn't have to own, like, okay, sure, it's the Stradale or the XX or whatever it's called. Yes, I understood if you were like, okay, we would love you to have spent a couple $100,000 with us, or maybe have owned like 2 or 3 or 4 Ferraris. But for you to say, you better still own that SF90. And if you don't own it, you better come in and buy one or order one now. But after you take delivery, you could walk right back in the store and we'll put an allocation in for your name for this new version of the SF90. To me, that's wrong.
That's even going to crash your car's price more.
Right. how about I just give you the 300 grand for the allocation, so I don't have to wait for the car, so I don't have to maintain
It's gonna be
the
a
car,
very expensive car,
right. But like, I'd rather just give you the money for and pay for the allocation. That way I don't have to title it, tag it, and do all these fees, than buy the car. I'd rather just give you the money for the allocation.
It's actually sickening. It really is sickening. And Ferrari is the worst culprit of this. They have to.
Easily.
I can't think of another one that's worse.
I mean, you could say Bugatti, but it's a Bugatti, and that's different, and it means that name is.
Well, here's the thing with Bugatti is back in the day, you could get Veyrons like that. Like you'd call them, and they would beg you to buy one because they couldn't sell Veyrons. Now they're exclusive. You can't just go ahead and buy a Chiron or the new one that's coming out. Like you have to be somebody, which makes sense, dude. I mean, these are $3-4 million cars. Like it makes sense that they're going to sell it to their exclusive customers.
Yeah, but they're $4 million, and like I've seen one Bugatti, and it was a Veyron, and to me, a Bugatti is another level of exclusivity. Yeah. It's different. That's the fastest car in the world. That's very different. It's like buying a Koenigsegg or a Pagani or something like that. Mm-hmm. They make like 100 of them, right? It's not even you can't get mad. They make 100 of them because they're exclusive cars.
If I go to like Pagani of Newport Beach or whatever, or wherever that is in California, and I'm like, I want a new wire, and they're like, yeah, go kick rocks. I'm not gonna get mad. I understand. It's a custom built car.
I mean, okay, like a Ferrari to a Bugatti is like a BMW to a Ferrari. Ferraris in the world of people who can buy Bugattis are a dime a dozen. Ferraris don't mean anything.
Well,
if you can, depending on the Ferrari, but for the normal ones, Bugattis or Ferraris are a dime a dozen in the world of people who can afford a Bugatti or a Pagani or a Koenigsegg. That's just how it is. Just like in the world of people who can afford a Ferrari, a BMW is a dime a dozen car. So Ferrari, even though you do make some pretty cool stuff, fast stuff, great sounding stuff, and beautiful cars, you at that, other than if it's like a one-off, like the F80, where not a one-off, but an F80 where it's like the legacy of the F50 and F40 and all this stuff, fine, make it exclusive. But something like a predecessor to the F8 or something along those lines, like F8 Trevito, I shouldn't need to have an allocation, or I shouldn't need to own 5 other cars for you to want me to do that. And then the freaking sprinkles on top of it are, I can't do what I want with my car if I want to modify it after I own it. Yeah. It can be paid off. You don't even have to have a loan on the car. If you modify that car, you should expect a letter from Ferrari. A mean name.
They had one of the biggest people out there catching flack for this list sort of thing or whatnot is Shmi. Because he's getting an SF90 Stradale or whatever it's called, the XX or whatever. He's getting a list of it, or he's getting a car. He's already spec'd it. He has an SF90 now. He's announced that he's selling the SF90 because he already got to Stradale. And he's getting a lot of flack because he has a pure Songway, he has a 296 GTS, and he has a Roma Spider. Mm-hmm. People are like, dude, like, what is the point of the 296 and the Roma Spider? And he's like, well, I love these different driving dynamic cars. And it's like, bro,
no, you don't. You have to buy them.
You have to buy them. Like, everybody in the comments was like, you have to buy these cars. And he's made videos talking about, no, I don't. I like these cars. And it's like, bro, you don't have to lie. Like, we all know this is a thing. Like, Ferrari openly admits to doing this. Like, this is their thing. And it's like, that's my biggest thing with him, is that he defends them so much because he wants, obviously the allocations and everything. But it just, like, it's clearly, bro, we know you didn't buy the Roma Spider because you wanted the Roma Spider.
Yeah. Or the 296 GTB, which not many people like.
Yeah, he's getting the Doldici Cilindri right now, the 12-cylinder one, which is basically an 812 with a body kit, but which is a cool car. I'd have one, but it's like, I don't know. Is it worth it? Like, I don't want to go buy a Roma Spider, Portofino.
This is why I'm a Lambo fan. This is why my top supercar brand is Lambo.
Well, I'm sure that they do some stuff too, where it's like you can't just walk in there and buy an SVG.
Sure, but
it's
like...
they're also, I've never heard of anybody getting told you can't buy this car because you're not on our list.
Right. Or you can't modify your own car, which is a clear sign that Lamborghini doesn't care about that, because you hear about these bumperless Huracans. They get turbo kits and all this other crazy stuff. So Lamborghini doesn't care. But let's say a Ferrari, when you want to be someone, buy a Lamborghini. Are
Yeah. McLaren, I don't know if they do it either.
they don't care.
I'm assuming they do to an extent for like stuff like the Senna, the P1.
Oh yeah,
The W1.
They come out with so many models so often. Remember when there was a point in time where they had released like 4 cars in 1 year, and it just devalued, like the 720S, for example. That car is around $300,000 new. You could pick up a 720S for low 200s.
Probably like hundreds now.
Like, and the 720S is a fantastic dynamically driving and fast car. Build quality, not so much. But the 720S used to be this car that, you know, was revered and it was expensive and you could sell it for more than you bought it for. Now the 720S is just, any old McLaren, because they release models so fast and their life cycles for models are so little.
It's almost like Apple with the iPhone.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the 720 and 750. The 750 is just a newer version of the 720.
It's a new version of the 720. What was nice is the 720S maintained its flagship status for quite a while before the 750S came out, so that was nice. But like when they were doing it, was like, especially with their hypercars, it went the Senna, and then they did the Speedtail, and then they did the Elva, all like within a 2-year, 3-year span. And then with their normal cars, it was like they did the 570, the 720, and then they came out with the Artura and the GT and all these cars that came out within like 3 years of each other. It's like, pump the brakes. We don't need this many cars. You're just devaluing your other cars because people want the newest and newest stuff. Yeah. So, but McLaren, I've never known not to be able to walk into a McLaren dealership and buy at least their.
That's literally what they did with the 650. Is the 650 was just a more reliable 12C.
Right.
Like that.
No, I wouldn't buy a 12C.
No.
We made a podcast on that one.
Want problems in bankruptcy and like suffering. Buy a 12C.
Yeah, buy a 12C.
But it's actually just crazy how these companies out there will do that. I don't want to buy 2 Taycans to get a GT3. Why? Let me just buy a damn car.
That might not even be enough.
And then for all the people that are going to be like, well, I want to buy, I buy a used one. I buy used cars all the time, and I kind of agree. But I also understand the point of, well, if I'm buying a car this special, I want to spec it. Like, I want my car. Mm-hmm. I want to pick my color. I want to do this. I want to do that. Because that matters. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to spend $260K for a GT3 RS, I'd probably get one in, like, voodoo blue with special stitching on the inside and all that kind of stuff, because why not? And then one of the worst parts is they sell cars to these people that just go out and flip them. Like, they don't drive them.
Oh, yeah. In what Ford did with the GT, remember when they made
a contract,
actually make sure you're not selling this car or you're getting sued.
For 3 years?
For 3 years, you have to keep this car. You know what? That's what they should do for all of these cars that are exclusive allocation.
Well, a lot of them do.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. They'll make them sign. They'll be like, okay, if you want to sell, you got to sell it back to us. Yeah. Otherwise, we're going to blacklist you. Yeah. Like, okay, whatever. But yeah, I mean, let us know down below. What do you guys think? Are we yapping, or is this a legitimate thing? I think it's a legitimate thing.
Oh, yeah. I think it's a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing car companies do for exclusivity thing. It's get it on one hand, and on the other hand, I hate them for it. So, yeah. That's all I have.
Yeah. Let us know down below. What do you guys think about the topic? And then have you guys ever, if anybody's ever owned one of these cars or gone through this thing, let us know what it was like. So have a great rest of your day.